could be as simple as that things just get so bad that everyone kind of wakes up through these experiences and they get it. It's like, this is not worth it anymore, or whatever. I'm just kind of rambling here. And that's simple, where it just causes a shift, or you can get into much more cosmic interpretations of that and energetic interpretations. It's up to you. It's how it speaks to you is how it speaks to you. And that's each for an individual to feel and decide. But I like the feeling, but I'm not going to just sit back and wait and wonder if this might go a better way or a worse way. I mean, we could destroy ourselves, very possibly. And I don't really, on this other level, I like to just mention that on a physical level, we can get into our differences of belief and whether we believe something was manufactured, or this has been provoked, and this is natural, and this is dangerous, and this is not dangerous, and all that stuff. Push it all aside for a minute, if you would, please, and just consider that there are these other levels where that kind of physical conflict is happening, but on these other levels it's not like that. And that's where I try to acknowledge and work on these other levels where there isn't the conflict, and really, really trust that there is more to something than the cliche meets the eye. So I'm really, really hoping that with enough awareness, each of us can lend our energy to nudging this into the direction of going for the better. And I mean a lot for the better, not just, oh well, we'll take what we can get, survival. Let's talk about more thrival rather than survival. This could be a horrible thing if we let it, or it could be the most amazing thing of our whole existence. And the thing is, as well, if it does tip towards this better on such a profound level of possibility, then does it not kind of make all the suffering have more meaning behind it? And I like this concept as well. I just can't accept that life is just such a meaningless mess, and there's just so much just negative energy and pain and stuff and suffering with nothing else. I just can't accept it. I won't accept it. And this is where I really get pushed into these other levels of awareness. And I guess my younger years of psychedelic exploration probably have helped me see other dimensions and levels of reality and possibilities for healing. But I truly do find that healing, it happens. I've learned this from working with my clients in tattooing. Healing, real true healing. I don't mean like, you cut yourself and it over a few days heals. But real deep energetic healing happens in the moment. You can't be kind of attached to the past and present and doing all this stuff. That's not real healing. It's a necessary thing. That's working on that plane. But we've got to work on these other planes to take it on another level further. And also, I think we need to, and this is also where we can work together and lend our energies, each in all of our different ways. And I'm seeing it happen all over the world. I'm seeing it on YouTube. I'm seeing people share and invest their insights and energies to helping this happen, even if they're not necessarily wording it that way. I feel that's what they're doing. And I'd like to encourage other people to see it this way and to really make an effort, even when you get frustrated with other people, to see that at least most people, like I said, unless someone's inherently evil, if there's such a possibility, and I'm sure there must be, most people, they could maybe be impossible to be around at a moment, but and they maybe even do absolutely horrible things. But I'd like to believe on some deep level, most people, or maybe everyone, really just wants the same thing, happiness. It's just different people have a different idea of how that manifests. But that's that thing of trying to cram everything and make it work on this physical plane. And that's where I feel like there's a point where it just doesn't work anymore. No matter, even like you've had the experience, I've had the experience where you you do your best to get across a positive message or an intention, and it just comes back at you. Someone misinterprets it. Some cases where some people, they do something good outdoors in public and someone punches them in the face or something. It's just that person was in the wrong moment, wrong time. You said the wrong thing to them, who knows what. But I still would like to believe that that person was not someone to hate, maybe except for at the moment. And that there's the whole possibility of this transformation happening, and it really demands a lot of understanding from anyone to be able to work with this energy on this level. So this is where I'm working with the portal, is on this kind of level. So when walking through this portal, this is something to acknowledge, is that this opening of a portal into another dimension, another realm, whatever you want to call it, another level of understanding, comprehension. When we're at this boiling point, this is when something like this can profoundly work. This and many other things happening all over the world can profoundly work in just taking it, pushing that through, and releasing that pressure and allowing us through, like the getting through the eye of the needle type of thing. Something that seems so impossible, but becomes not only possible, but it almost can't not happen, because we're so pushed to the maximum that now all it takes is that little, and we go through. So symbolism right there alone. The intention while working on this, the symbolism in the doors, my intention as I do it, I try to keep my heart open. I feel that's really, really important for this work to happen. It's a lot of people talk about what would be a good example, cooking. Most people can acknowledge that you can taste the difference between food that's cooked with love in the intention and food that's just made mindlessly. I don't know, maybe you're at McDonald's and you're just can't wait to get out, and go and play with your friends. Yeah, you function well. You might have even done a nice Big Mac or something, but does it have a lot of energy in it? Whereas you could get some chef who absolutely loves what they do, loves people, and makes me think of when I was in Greece once in a little village, and we were in this little stone restaurant. They had one meal on the menu of that day, and there was no one else in there. And I even remember they gave us bread, and they put the bread on the table. It wasn't even on a plate. It was that sort of village restaurant-like. I'd never experienced it before. And it was funny. There was a canary in a cage over in the side, and there was a bunch of Greek, of course it was in Greece, old Greek men over in one corner, but it wasn't very full in this room. And we ordered some food, and when the food came to us, the older lady, the chef, came out of the kitchen into the doorway and was watching us eat, because she just so loved seeing us enjoying the food she made with love. And it's that authenticity and that love, that is what is going to take us past this block. And it, what else are challenges for other than to overcome them and to take you to a new and higher level than you had been before? And that's what's happening. That's what I feel, and that's why I'm doing this. This is to take advantage of what's already happening, and it's just that little tip. Rupert Sheldrake has written basically everything on morphogenetic resonances and morphogenic fields, and this gets into explaining a lot of this from a scientific perspective as well. Another great author and physicist is Vadim Zealand, and I used to be able to get his books read on YouTube, but I don't think they're available anymore. He's got a lot of profound work. Once again, science that is explaining this kind of energetic work that I'm talking about. So if you find that there's a resistance when you're hearing this stuff and you just can't get your mind around it, it's because you're not supposed to wrap your mind around it. You got to feel it with the heart. And I'm just mentioning these scientists because I'm just saying this is not just my little dream thing. This is based on a lot of research, and that's also coming through now at the same time. This level that we're at a level where we've got maximum of things that are horrible and detrimental to our health. And we got maximum of all the potential of what could happen. So it's just like this amazing scale. I think about all these stories of from when I was a child, and all these things where they'd have a scale, and then the feather, or the pomegranate seed, or something in the myth, where they'd be weighing someone against something. But anyways, the idea of there's just this little something that would just tip the scale, and that was it. Or the whole thing about if a butterfly flaps its wings in another part of the world, how it can affect. It's going to that energetic level, I feel, exists on planes of existence that just our senses don't pick up. So therefore, a lot of us just feel like nothing exists except for what we can see, feel, and hear. Well, tell that to a blind, deaf, and dumb person. If you can't see and hear, then wouldn't that person have to have no reality? Well, they still have a reality, and quite often a more profound reality than the ones of us that can see and hear. So obviously, that's not the truth. That there is more to reality than what we can see and feel and hear, to our senses. So I don't think too many people would argue that. So if you have like I said, if you have a difficulty comprehending some of this, and you get resistances that come up, try just acknowledging them as a resistance, and just say, well, why do I have such a blockage to this idea? Because I think these blockages are there to be unblocked, but they need to be a challenge for them to put you into another level. If there's no challenge there, then what is there to motivate you to move to a deeper level in perceiving reality? And wouldn't it be wonderful if on a global level everyone would be able to shift in some way? I think for myself, I think it's more like I feel, and in my psychedelic days, we got these insights, and I never knew later whether they were real insights or whether it was just all in my mind. But I would feel like there was going to be a period of time in the world where a lot of us who had developed certain aspects of ourselves and insights, would become midwives to help other people through something when things shifted and became very, very difficult. And I feel that's kind of how it's happening. There are certain people waking up to certain things at different times, and maybe that's all part of a plan too. You're not all supposed to wake up at the same time, and not all supposed to wake up at the same rate within yourself. I mean, so as in like, one person just wakes up, another person just wakes up. Well, I think maybe a part of you wakes up, and another part of someone else wakes up. So it doesn't mean that just because this part of you woke up, that you're at a higher level than that person, that this part woke up. It's all happening as you need, and that's, I guess, part of the trust. But then there's an aspect of people helping other people through, and that doesn't mean I learned that with my brothers and sisters when I was younger. I'd get a great idea and a realization and stuff, and I had to tell them, and they had to see it my way instantly, and I got frustrated because they didn't. And then 5 years later or something, they'd come to me with this thing I was trying to teach them, and they'd come to me like it was their new idea. And I realized it's like everyone has to come to a realization on their own, at their own time, for them. So putting that into this story and this meaning, everything's got a place. Everyone's got a position. Whether you think you're not doing something, whether you are frustrated, whether someone is sick and dies of cancer or whatever. I know from a lot of the work I did tattooing, and I had a lot of people come to me that's just on this topic, where I had some people who were dying, and they came to me for a tattoo, and that's a very interesting concept. That a person wants a tattoo, they have never had a tattoo. In this case, a few situations where I'm recalling, and the person comes to me and said, I'm dying basically. And I just know I want and need a tattoo. It's just something I've got to do. And it brought me to realize that dying is not a failure. Dying is not a cop-out. Dying, and a lot of people who are dying feel that way. They feel like they're failing. Their body's failing them, and this is failing. But in context of in the bigger picture of what I'm saying, even someone who's dying or sick or what, in any way they could feel like they're not a part of something, or they're being taken away from their loved ones, or however it manifests, that is on the physical level and mental, emotional level. But I really do believe and enjoy believing that there's so much more to the picture, and if we understood better, even someone dying would know that they're not failing. That, oh, if only I could just make it through this illness, then I have succeeded, and oh, I failed, I'm dying. I think that in this bigger picture, on these other levels, even someone dying, there's purpose and meaning in everything. And I think this is where the mythology starts to explain some stuff. Of course, Vikings, largely, they were quite warring people, and it was a time period for that. So a lot of their mythology is based on symbols that are of battle. But as you know, with a metaphor, a battle doesn't have to be with knives and swords and machine guns and stuff. A battle can be within the self. It can be a sacred inner battle, or partly an external one. It really depends. So this is just rambly thoughts that I have that kind of tie in with all of this. Hopefully, by me sharing it, it could, even if it has one person realize something for themselves, then it's worth all of this. So anyways, so there's this sacred well that Odin drank from. There's the serpent that has got some profound levels of meaning. One of them that really drew me into the meaning of it and the significance of it being on the doors is the idea, because this serpent, in a sense, my interpretation, I would say, is basically as you're going through this threshold, and there's a lot of stories about that kind of idea, and the idea that some people say you can only get through with the innocence of a child, or you can only get through if you let go of all your identity, your fears, your ego, this sort of thing. Now you're starting to kind of know what I'm referring to in different mythologies. So the serpent dragon kind of guy, he, in my way of interpreting this, if I'm correct, you're going through there, he's chewing off all the debris, all your fears, any negative intentions, if someone had it, if they're not authentic, he's going to get that shit. So you'll either get through or not get through, or you'll get through by leaving that shit behind. That's part of his job. You've got that well. So talk about wisdom and rejuvenation as well as you're going through. Let's see, just jump in here a little bit. And okay, so Valhalla, I had mentioned about the gates opening and the fallen soldiers coming to aid in this big event that is going to either topple one way or the other. So that tells me that there's a lot more going on behind us than just each of our physical selves. There's so much more of a momentum, and whatever people interpret it that's going on and who they hate and love in this story and how they comprehend it, if there's a sacredness to even what seems negative in the bigger picture, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of neat to think that anyways. And the idea that there may be what we can call souls or energies that may come, and I believe will come to aid us in this massive cosmic upheaval and shift that we're going through. And one thing I noticed just the last few days are people expressing themselves in the frustrations, the whole, like a lot of stuff was surfacing because of a lot of incidents and people being killed who are black, and frustrations that were coming up, and it's on one hand it's good to see that people are being able to let out these frustrations. I listened to Gary Clark Jr. talk about it, and I listened with my heart open, and I've tried my best to feel and understand what he was feeling, which I don't because I'm not him. But I saw with a lot of people, I saw this Afro-American lady who she was part owner of a store. I don't know if it was New York or Philadelphia or where, and she was really upset. Obviously, her store had been broken into and destroyed, and everything had been looted. And it was interesting because she was yelling at this Antifa guy, and she was saying, "Yeah, you destroyed my store and put Black Lives Matter all over it, but yet I'm black. Obviously, my life doesn't matter to you, or you wouldn't have destroyed my store." It was just interesting to see the messed up motivations and conflicts behind things. But the best part was seeing people, black or white or yellow or whatever color and whatever culture, starting to express, as painful as it is, starting to express their heart and their feelings. And I think this is, to me, a sign that there's some healing starting to happen, although tragically there is tragedy that seems to provoke this mechanism or this aspect of healing. But I do see little threads of what I'm choosing to recognize within myself as the beginnings of a tip towards healing. And this is also an aspect, just to remind you again, of what this is all about, is to work with the energies that are already happening, already in motion, and being that little energetic nudge that is only necessary to just tip it over into. So I encourage people, anyone that even slightly identifies and relates to what I'm saying, what I'm doing, to take part in what I'm doing, whether it's just watching my posts and loving what I'm doing, just appreciating in general is adding an energy to this bigger momentum that I'm trying to move. Some people might want to and have. I've had many people who are artists ask if they could do something of their own project influenced by this. And I said, please do. This is what I would like. Like, whether it's carving, whether it's knitting, whether it's painting, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be this, but just with that same intention that you're doing. I find artwork is really sacred in the sense that if you get into that heart space, doing your art with that certain kind of an elevated intention and openness of your heart, there's a whole other level to what it is, and a whole profound level of energy shifting, energy healing is the best that I can just use words to describe it. But it heals yourself therapeutically. We have art therapy. There's a proof right there. So there's a self-healing mechanism. At the same time, there can be a more external, like healing others on other levels even. And energetic healing can manifest in so many ways. It can manifest on the physical, although I feel that the intention is more, you work on an energetic level, and then it just kind of bleeds out into all these different areas and dimensions, and therefore can manifest. If you're feeling really good and you're shifting all your energy, then physically you start to shift as well. So it's healing on multiple levels. So I'm just going to pull out odds and ends from here that mean something to me. I jotted down a lot of stuff. Some of it is not so important. It's interesting that the Rainbow Bridge is in the Norse mythology. A little bit different than the one that's mentioned all the time with when animals die. But this is the part about the fire that was really bizarre. Muspelheim, land of raging fire, instrumental in the creation of the first giant and thus the creation of the world. It said sparks from Muspelheim were used by Odin to create the stars. The squirrel's name, and I'll pronounce it wrong, but Ratoskr. Ratoskr. Doesn't that sound like Ratatouille, Walt Disney, that they got the name from there? Well, I think it was a rat, but kind of interesting. And this little character makes me think of just all the dynamics in the world where there's shit disturbing and exactly what this little guy represents. He's just causing a lot of confusion and havoc and misinterpretations and distorting truths. And isn't that what's happening right now? We're stuck in the middle of this just frustrating, like, even if you try to do something with one meaning, it comes across with another. It's all of that stuff, or you say something to someone and they twist it around either on purpose or not. He sort of, for me, represents all of that right there. The eagle that I haven't put on top, that lives on top of the worlds, it says here, as I'd mentioned, is an arch enemy of the dragon down here. I do really want to go into, and this is kind of cool, there's a goddess in Norse mythology called Eden. Kind of interesting. Garden of Eden, E-D-E-N. This is I-D-U-N-N, or I-D-U-N, and then her name is Iduna, so I-D-U-N-N-A. So she's the goddess of eternal spring, mortal youth, and vitality, and the golden apples, 11 of them, of immortality. The leaves and fruits of Yggdrasil, which is the tree, including the apples, have healing properties that can heal all ailments. Some say they even retrieve a life already lost. So some great symbolism in here that I feel is kind of all the innards or the mechanisms of this, helping with this energetic shift of opening this portal. So I think that's more or less the gist of what I wanted to get through or get across in this one message before I start carving tomorrow. I'm thinking of, I've got to pull out all my tools. I have a lot of the tools I have never even used before. Like, I don't even know how to use them, how they work. So I think maybe this afternoon, after I have lunch, I'm going to pull out my tools out and just test them all out on pieces of rough wood so I don't make a mistake learning on the door. That would not be good. And then I think my intentions would be that I practice on the wood today, and then tomorrow morning I start the actual door carving. My intention is, just as I had the intention with the bear medicine, and my intention is that as I'm working on these doors, shifts will happen in the world that have direct relation in some way to what's going on in the door. So, and that I don't know, but it usually happens, and there's always these strange little connections and coincidences and synchronicities and things. So that will unfold, and I'll express them as it goes. I always leave energy for that. Just like with my tattooing, I never like to preconceive anything. I always leave room for things to evolve and develop. So quite often, my client might be sitting in the chair and say, "Well, like, can you just what do you intend for this to look like when it's done?" And I'll kind of say something or other, but in a real true sense, I don't exactly know. I feel it, but I don't fully see it, and that's because I refuse to have a boxed in intention, so that way the limits can only be what I intended. I always leave things open for evolving as I go, and therefore my strategy, which I've developed over 40 years, which I'm transferring over into the wood carving. I mean, there's still a lot that I don't know, but there's elements from tattooing, composition, and layers and stuff that I have developed for a while, and I'm transferring that over to the door. And the important part is to let it evolve over time. So I've developed techniques of how to maximize that, for me anyways, so it can go in the best way possible and become much better than even I intend. So truthfully, I don't fully know what these doors are going to look like, other than that I have some examples that I posted from ancient stave church doors, and one or two more contemporary carvings that were replicas of those doors. That's sort of my intention of the feel and the look, but it's bound to take on some subtle differences, which is what I want. But that's the feel that I'm going with. So one just quick glance over this, just to see if there's anything about the apples. As far as on the physical level, I've got the hardware that came with these doors, and I still don't know whether that hardware is going to be used in all entirety or some parts of it and not others. The one thing I'm thinking about here is these doors push inwards, and so I want the hardware here to be something that, because I don't want people pushing on the doors themselves, because over time they're going to get worn away. There's going to be quite a bit of heavy traffic in the place where they're going up. And so the doors, both the sort of handles, hardware, are going to have to be in a manner where it lends well to pushing open, ideally if the doors close on their own, which I think they would. But also I want the hardware to be kind of handmade and well, something that a Viking craftsman would do. And according to the mythology, the dwarves in their realm, and you could just draw from Lord of the Rings for a concept of that, the dwarves were the master craftsmen. So they built Thor's hammer, they built Odin's spear, they built all these things. Like they were just master craftsmen. So if I could just get some dwarves to build these handles for me, and other bits of hardware, that would be absolutely awesome. So I call in the spirits for dwarves to come out of some other realm. I forgot the name of the world that they came from now. It was really cool. Is it where are we? Oh yeah, this is another one of those weird things. In this mythology, there was a great wall being built. Now, they had a giant work on it, and there was a whole bunch of mess with Loki and double crossing and stuff, because they made a deal with the giant to build the wall in a year, I think. And if he did it over a year, if he did it within the year, he got, I forgot the name of the goddess, but he got this goddess as his wife. But then those that made the promise didn't really want him to have this goddess, so then they tried to fuck with him so that he distracted him in some way so that he couldn't finish it within the year, so that they didn't that's what another aspect that I like about the Norse mythology is the gods are not perfect. They don't live forever. There's the elements that kind of link them in with more human traits, but yeah, they're still gods. So I thought that was really kind of cool. But yeah, so there's great walls being built. And I'm going, holy shit, this great wall being built. There's all these fires being lit everywhere. It's like, I don't have to tell you what those parallels are with. And the Great Wall was made by Ymir's eyelashes, which is the first giant that was killed, and his body was kind of used to create 2 or 3 of these worlds. So his eyelashes went to creating the Great Wall, which is pretty cool, pretty weird. Now they also have a hell, one of these realms, and it's ruled by a goddess. She doesn't seem to have any comprehension, understanding, or gives a shit about living or dead. She's described as being half alive and half dead in appearance. And their hell, they say, is almost pretty well and could be this reality on a certain level. And I've had that thought. Well, some people say, hell on earth, like hell is within you, and all this kind of way of thinking comes up when I was reading this. And in some ways, on a certain level, I think you'd all agree with me, on a certain level, we are in quite a hell. But it's kind of mixed up with moments of heaven. It's kind of how I'm experiencing it. I can lose myself, go out for a walk and that, and I can feel absolutely in heaven. And then the reality comes back, and I can be pulled into hell. And definitely some of the stuff that's going on. So that's an interesting perspective and difference compared to the Christian hell. The idea that it's very similar and overlays with this one in some way. The Rainbow Bridge it's on fire, and it's so that these giants can't cross it. So it's a protection thing. This Rainbow Bridge is on fire, but yet there are these fire giants that it's in their destiny that when this Ragnarok sort of big destructive event happens, which might be what's kind of happening right now with all the fires and the Great Wall and these other things. These fire giants, these frost giants and fire giants, these fire giants cross this bridge and go to destroy Valhalla, but yet at the same time they say that during this time the gates of Valhalla open, and all these souls, or whatever you want to call it, of these brave soldiers throughout history come to aid in this cause. So it's kind of like, the way I'm taking it is, things have to get worse before they get better, but on a cosmic level. So something has to happen where it's kind of like Ragnarok is happening, which releases this destiny of the fire giants to go up and destroy Valhalla, but yet that opens the gates of Valhalla, and the souls all these brave warriors come to aid in the cause. So it's like, I feel like it's like it has to get a certain level of bad for all these things to be activated, like to activate this more cosmic level of a shift. It's kind of exciting, if you think about it. And this is why, like, a lot of people tell me I think too much and I read into things too much, but I've spent a very strong, good 40 plus years of my life, and Raven as well. That's why we're so close connected. Researching stuff, mythology, and how things correlate, and how, shifting of energies, and quantum physics, and how that connects with things, and it has really helped me, gives me insight into a lot of the potentials of what's going on. I mean, a lot of us, and I myself included, have moments where something is just not comprehensible. But you would have to admit, those that feel that way and maybe think this is really far-fetched, that something so good could come out of this. Well, if I had told you a year ago that the whole world would be in lockdown, you'd say that was far-fetched, but it happened. So believe in the unbelievable. We are now plunged into a reality where things are and can happen that were considered impossible before. It's already happened. So just believe that other things, we've been pushed already into that. So, I mean, the rockiness of it is